I'm Aaron Baker from PhoneDog.com, and it's part 2 of the full video review of the Motorola Droid Ultra on Verizon Wireless. Is this thing a contender against the Moto X, the LG G2, and the HTC One? We'll find out in part 2. It's part 2 of the Motorola Droid Ultra full video review, and to start off part 2, I did something that I promised I wouldn't do in part 1, but I wanted to keep the suspense high here, so I thought this would be starting on a good note. You can see the volume rocker here. It doubles up as a nano SIM card tray. It goes right here, and then your SIM card goes in, and your volume rocker goes in as well. I think that's pretty cool, and that's something that other manufacturers, other OEMs have not done to date. But in part 2, we're kicking off talking about Android 4.2. We extensively talked about the software and the hardware in part 1. We're going to continue in part 2 as you would expect, but with more of an emphasis on software. Before I get too far into this, thanks to our partners at Best Buy Mobile for giving devices like the Droid Ultra for use in our One Paw Band-Aid giveaway game. When you go into Best Buy Mobile, you'll walk out working. So whether it's the Droid Ultra, the Mini, the Max, or perhaps even the Moto X, you'll walk out with a device that not only works best for you, but you'll have everything set up at Best Buy Mobile. So we'll jump right in here back into Android 4.2.2, and you can see how it looks on the Moto Droid Ultra here, Motorola Droid Ultra. I was confusing Moto X and Motorola's full name. You can see here really fast as well, despite having a dual-core processor, and I think that worries a lot of particularly spec heads who love those quad-core processors, love that Exynos CPU, love that, perhaps octa-core processor, or love the Snapdragon 600, the Snapdragon 800. This device is very fast all around. It has 2 GB of RAM, and with Motorola's X8 architecture, I haven't seen any slowdowns on this device whatsoever. I mean, very zippy all around, no lag whatsoever, and I'm just kind of running quickly through some things here so you can see what it looks like. Very quick, very clean. Again, haven't had any issues whatsoever. 5 home screens on this device, as you would expect from Android 4.2.2, and I can jump right in here and take a look again at what comes out of the box. You get the usual Verizon applications like I talked about in the unboxing, you get Google Plus integration, and then of course some things that I've installed as well. Verizon applications include Visual Voicemail, VZ Navigator, VZ Security, Verizon Tones, and more. So yeah, you do get some Verizon bloatware out of the box, but you know what? It just seems to be the case with most of the carriers these days, at least with a lot of their devices. So Android 4.2, like I talked about in part 1, some really great things out of the box, like OK Google Now, for example, where I can go in here, and this is a Moto X feature. Tell me, actually I probably should start over again. OK Google Now, tell me the weather in Dallas.
It's 98 degrees and partly cloudy in Dallas.
So a relatively cool week in Dallas, 97, 99, 99 in comparison to what it has been. Okay, Google Now. Text message 555-1234. Message, how are you? And I can't remember the actual code word. I always struggle with this one in all of my videos, the code word to get the message in there. But I can edit it from here and then move forward if I'm not driving and I'm stopped somewhere and focusing on my messages. So overall, nice functionality with that, okay, and I'm not going to say it because it'll activate it again, but it starts with a G and ends with an L, so nice little feature to have on the device. Let's take a look here at the browser, and I talked about this in part 1, and I'll continue into part 2. I think 5 inches is a great display spot for a lot of people because it's not too incredibly big, so you're not dealing with 5.5 inches or 6.44 inches, for example, and all of that stuff. But you know what, 5 inches is perfect for content consumption like browsing the web as we're doing here, browsing on YouTube, things like that. I think it's a great sweet spot, but you've still got some decent travel on this device, so I can still get my fingers across the display. And it has a great feel in the hand too. I talked about this in part 1. Out of all the devices I've worked with in 2013, definitely one of my favorites just from a feel in the hand perspective. I make a lot of phone calls. That's still something, I know it sounds kind of antiquated, but that's still something that's very important to me in 2013, and this thing feels great in the hand. That said, you got a ton of gloss here on the back, and it does attract fingerprints like nobody's business, so keep that in mind. PhoneDog.com here, as you would expect, and out of the box you got the Google keyboard and have Moto Chinese input as well, but you got stock Android keyboard here, nothing too surprising on the Droid Ultra, CNN.com just for example. But again, you can see how quick this device is despite only having a dual-core processor with Motorola's X8 architecture. Don't let the specs steer you the wrong way. I think, as one of my colleagues said, my friend Chris Ziegler over at The Verge said, we really are living in a post-spec world, and that's something you need to keep in mind. Buy it for the overall package, not just for the quad-core processor or the octa-core processor or the 2 GB of RAM or the 18 million gigabytes of RAM. Buy it because it works best for you. I think there are a lot of great things that Motorola brings to the table in this device. This is the $199 device. Mini's $99, Max is $299.99. This thing packs a 2,130 milliamp hour battery, and overall I've been pretty impressed with the battery life. I still wish, for the love of all things holy, that stock Android had a physical percentage indicator. So instead of looking at that arbitrary thing up there where I can't tell what the battery's like, I would say like 48% or 55%. You can download things like Battery Widget Reborn, and of course you have the widget out of the box here on the Droid devices, which gives you the circular thing here. Don't care for it. They need a physical battery percentage indicator. I just wish they would give me that. Rant over, I think. But you get my idea. 2,130 milliamp hour battery here. Overall, I've been pretty pleased with the battery. Standby time is pretty decent. I've had a nice combination of standby time and call time as well. I get about 12 to 14 hours. I get far less than what Motorola claimed you would get with the Droid Ultra, but I get about, in my testing, 12 to 15, 14 to 15 hours with moderate to low heavy use. And again, Verizon's 4G LTE continues to work well. They promise download speeds of anywhere from 5 to 12 megabits per second and upload speeds from 2 to 5 megabits per second. Pretty zippy all around, despite the fact that it's pretty saturated in comparison to the other LTE networks, AT&T's LTE network, Sprint's LTE network, and T-Mobile's infancy, or a network that's in its infancy. So really impressive speeds all around there. Let's take a look at Quadrant Standard here and load it up also. And have I not downloaded it? Let's go in here and download this real time. I thought I downloaded it, but maybe I uninstalled it in working with the device. Go ahead and accept this. We'll download, install it, and we'll take a look at Quadrant Standard because, again, take it with a grain of salt, but it's always good to compare these to other devices on the market. So we'll do a quick Quadrant Standard test, and then we'll be done with it. Quadrant Standard, be done with the speed test, I should say. We'll continue on into the 10 megapixel camera, which, spoiler alert, is not Motorola's strong suit. So if you're looking for a camera, you may want to look elsewhere. But like I said, a lot of great things about this device. Motorola has always done one thing incredibly well. They've always done one thing incredibly, or I shouldn't say incredibly, but kind of poorly, and that's always been their imaging. So from a camera perspective, Motorola has never really been the go-to. One thing they do exceptionally well is call quality, and there's no disappointment on the Droid Ultra. The call quality is fantastic on this device. The earpiece is nice and loud. The reception's fantastic. I've had no issues whatsoever even testing this in Verizon dead spots in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I've been incredibly impressed with this phone all around, and if you're somebody like me, and I can't remember if I talked about this in part 2 or part 1, I'm very much an old school guy. I'm on the phone a lot for work, on conference calls. Like the fact that this thing is great from a call quality standpoint. It matches the Moto X, it matches all the other Motorola devices I've worked with in recent memory. 9,188 on Quadrant Standard. So again, in comparison to the 12,000 or so you see on the HTC One and the Galaxy S4, it falls a little bit behind. But again, as you can see here, very impressive speed all around on this device. No, I don't want to open Amazon. I do want to open widgets just so you can kind of see. I'll browse through here quickly so you can take a look at the widgets that come on this device out of the box. Pretty much the stock Android stuff here. I do like the digital clock quite a bit. 10:08 a.m. That is not the case, but you know what? We'll pretend like it is. Like the digital clock, and then of course I have to use this because I have to have the physical battery percentage indicator, and this is the only option out of the box that the Droid Ultra has. If you're looking for one through Google Play, highly recommend Battery Widget Reborn. We'll finish out by taking a look at the camera. 10 megapixel camera with 1080p HD recording, and the camera's pretty run-of-the-mill. I talked about this during my 30-day challenge with the Moto X, and it continues over here. You got a pretty ho-hum appearance here. I can swipe to the right to access the gallery. I can swipe to the left to access my settings. It's very basic, as you can see here. Pardon all the light. You can see HDR, flash. Got the ability here to tap to focus. I've got this right here, slow motion video, panorama, location. I've got shutter tone on, and then I've got the shake or quick capture, which is turned on. So when I have the device off, I can do like that twice, and it should, there it is, activate the camera as a shortcut. So front-facing camera, video camcorder, nothing really surprising here. We'll bring over the Ativ S Neo, which was unboxed this morning just for comparison purposes. Overall, it's a clean picture, don't get me wrong. 10 megapixels, not bad. The colors look pretty rich here, but from an editing perspective, you don't get a whole lot. You do get a couple of editing options after the fact. So for example, if I'm in the gallery here, you can see this option down here at the bottom. Click on it. I should move over into landscape so you can get a better feel of it here. And I can go in here and do kind of Instagram style stuff like vintage, black and white, bleach. I can come down here and crop it if I want to. You know, let's just say apply the crop. I can mirror it. I can apply the mirror if I want to. I can add a border around it. So I can do some customizations after the picture's taken, but as for actual specs, or actual stuff when the picture's being taken rather, you're kind of limited in what you can do until you actually take the photo. I also don't care for the fact there's no physical camera button on this device. And when you do this, I'll show you actually. Go in here and even, you know what, I'm even going to turn tap to focus on. Actually, I'm going to leave it off. and you can see right here, when I click it, it takes the picture. Just like that. And I can tap it to focus, but you know what? Again, even if I want to focus it, there are times where I'll focus in a couple of different spots before I take a picture. Not an option with this device. Overall, really like the Droid Ultra in a lot of different ways. A couple of different great things about this unit. One, price point's not too bad. It's $199. Two, this thing feels incredible in the hand. And three, from a display size perspective, this is my favorite, right up there with the Galaxy S4 and Verizon's lineup. If you're looking for a device that's not too big, look at this. Look at the Galaxy S4. Love the screen size on this. That said, a couple of cons with this device. It doesn't have the build quality of the HTC One, so just comparing all these high-end apples to apples. No build quality in comparison to HTC One. It's a little bit glossy on the back. It is pretty ho-hum and plain Jane in comparison, at least at first glance, to TouchWiz, to Sense, and then a couple of other things as well. The max version is $299. Overall, I think this thing is great from a call quality standpoint. I think this thing is great from an ergonomic standpoint. I think this thing needs a little bit of work in the camera department, and then you may like Sense, you may like TouchWiz more, and your friends may have TouchWiz, for example, or Sense, so you're used to HTC Zoe or the highlight reels or perhaps S-Beam or things like that, and you may want to go with one of those because the ecosystems are here with Samsung, with HTC, with Apple. And you know what, in the case of friends or family, it may make more sense to get in that ecosystem. But overall, this is a great effort by the new Motorola, which is now owned by Google. Look forward to seeing this and what else they have to offer in the coming months. Keep it locked on the site for continuing coverage. I'm on Twitter at PhoneDog_Aaron. I'm on Facebook at Facebook.com/HiAaronBaker, and on Google Plus as well, gplus.to/PhoneDog. Thanks for watching. More to come on the Droid Ultra on PhoneDog.com. I'll see you next time.